Every year I have a bit of a ritual. I like to go through all of my images from the past 12 months and put together a set that I'm really happy with, that I really like, but more importantly, to understand what they say about me as a photographer. Reviewing a year's worth of images can help you see maybe patterns that you didn't realize were there. Maybe you shoot things in a certain way, you light things in a certain way, there's certain subjects that you're drawn to, you just didn't quite realize until you see a year's worth of images in front of you. It not only helps you to understand who you are as a photographer, but who you're becoming as a photographer. One question that came to mind was, what kind of photographer am I? How do I label myself? How do I explain to somebody who I am? Because I like every genre of photography there is. I mean, I take a camera everywhere with me. I enjoy shooting food, faces, architecture, travel, landscapes, boring objects in the street. I like everything. So I was wondering, how do I summarize who I am in 1 or 2 sentences? And in fact, do I even need to? Maybe just calling myself a photographer is enough. But anyway, I'm going to run through my top 10 images that I've selected from the past year. And I'm going to do a bit of a self-critique, and I'm going to just share that with you briefly, because you might find it interesting. When I actually sat down to look at my images, I was thinking I'm a travel photographer, because street and landscape and all of those things come under the travel umbrella. Anyway, these images have surprised me because they've revealed to me what really matters to me and what I'm really interested in, and how I want to shape my photography and move forward with it. And this kind of exercise might be good for you as well. So here we go. The first one. I don't think this is a great photo. I remember taking it, and I remember how much I enjoyed trying to find this kind of street scene at night with all this rich black and white contrast. And to me, this documents street life nicely. And we don't see so many photos of life at night like this. Maybe that's one of the reasons why I like it. And you could say it's an environmental portrait. We've got somebody in an environment here. And so the main takeaway is I enjoy looking for this type of scene. I want to do more of it. I love shooting black and white. And it's very clear to me, looking through all of these images, but this one in particular, that I love black and white more than anything else. One thing that happened this past year, or didn't happen, is I didn't travel as much as I hoped to. So I was looking for things to photograph in my own neighborhood, my own town. So I decided to explore a number of small towns within an hour's drive from me and create a project to document them. And this has become an ongoing project. It's something that I can do when I've got an extra few hours spare, an afternoon, and I want to go out and do some photography. This is giving me purpose. This project has forced me to really see where in the past I've taken my local surroundings for granted and barely looked. So my only dilemma here is color or black and white. Some of these images that I've been shooting really work well in color, like this one, but I want to do black and white too, so got to figure that one out. Another thing that developed from not traveling much is I started to spend time around lots of people, like in the street, in buildings and museums, etc. And I was practicing creating compositions with people all perfectly balanced and positioned within a frame. My goal was to create an image with no one awkwardly overlapping and getting cut off. And this particular picture, perfection. Really happy with the way that balances. And a variation of this was to create images with layers of people. Again, all precisely positioned, all actively doing something, ideally. I see too many street photos of just some random person walking down the street. Maybe they're walking the dog or looking at their phone or holding a shopping bag. And they're kind of boring and pointless. But when you get a group of people, ideally all doing the same thing, like checking their phone. That repetition is interesting. And that was the goal with this image. I was at a location that was really busy, loads of people, and I just sat there for about, well, at least half an hour. And it took that to get that one shot. I'm really pleased with it. I found myself photographing a lot of people this year, particularly shooting portraits. Now, earlier in the year, I dug out some old art books, 17th, 18th century painters, and I was looking at how these painters used light, how they worked with light and illuminated a group of people, you know, sitting in a room, light coming from the window, that sort of thing, you know, the classic Renaissance paintings. And so I decided to experiment and play with some lighting and recreate that. So I started doing the classic Rembrandt lighting, and this shot was my favorite from the year for that. Then I decided to start shooting, breaking a self-imposed rule that every portrait that I shoot needs a catchlight in the eye to bring it to life. So I started experimenting, not having catchlights, and this one in particular worked really, really well. I'm just really pleased with this image, and I think this is the kind of image that some people are going to say, nah, don't like that, and others, that's fine. I like it. That's all that matters. I can see myself doing a lot more portraiture over the next year. And one of my favorite kind of portraits actually is to shoot people in their environment, particularly artists and craftspeople in their workshops or something. I'm showing context, showing where they live, where they work. And I was very lucky to have been hired by a heritage museum in Ontario to shoot a series of environmental portraits for their marketing and their website. And that allowed me to indulge in this and have a play. This image in particular was a favorite, using natural lighting. I was very pleased with this one actually. Environmental portraiture is something I like to do when I travel, when I'm pursuing my travel photography, and actually I made a video about that. It didn't get a lot of views. I don't know why. I thought it was one of my better videos I made on this channel this past year. It's linked at the end of this one, so go take a look. Help a little channel out by clicking on another video. Right, where are we? Landscape photography. This is the only landscape photo of my selection this past year. So landscape photography is my favorite genre when I need some me time. I just love to escape into nature with my camera and shoot. But the one thing that I've grown to really quite despise over the past few years is going to beautiful scenic views, honeypot locations, and shooting the same thing as everybody else. I don't care how dramatic the light is. It's been done to death, and that bores me to death. So what I've been doing is going to random places and looking for little intimate landscapes to shoot, somewhere where there's maybe a little story. And this image, I just love this little tree that I found. There's a story here. It's determined to survive in a very harsh location, growing out of a crack in a rock. And it's definitely a story of survival. It's an environmental portrait of sorts. I mean, it shows a subject within its environment. There's context and story, and this image really resonated with me for some reason and has me wanting to seek out more of the same in the new year. So my greatest love out of any genre is street photography. Over the past few years, I've done more street photography than anything else. And what I've found myself doing is just shooting 28mm on my little point and shoot fixed lens camera, or 35mm. To do the same thing over and over, I thought at the latter part of this year, that's not a good thing. I need to up my game. I need to do things that I haven't done before. So I decided to do street photography with an 85mm prime. And the results were surprising. An 85mm completely changes the way I shoot on the street, and it had me learn this entirely new approach. After a few hours, I discovered it was actually incredibly creative and refreshing, and resulted in me grabbing my favorite street photo of the year. Just love that image. The timing is perfect. There's a little interesting story there, and that 85mm lens, Perfect. Black and white, of course. So the big theme this past year was shooting the mundane because of, as I said, lack of travel. I've already mentioned I've started to document small towns, shooting things like storefronts, but I also started to go to random places looking for little intimate details in, back alleys or off a main highway. It all started at the beginning of the year when I came across this scene. This is such a nondescript, everyday, boring scene. Most people wouldn't give it a second look. You just walk past. But I decided to stop and see if I could create a really strong composition with such an uninteresting scene. I was able to compose a perfectly balanced, almost surreal image. The icing on the cake with this image was the humor with the fish on the wall looking at the broom handle. I can't fault that image. I just love it. I think it's perfect. Now, that was the 10th image, but I'm going to add one more. I was walking along past a graveyard. What caught my eye was the contrasting color, a little hit of red amongst all of that green. That was really quite attractive in its own right. Then I realized what the sign was and how humorous that is. Another everyday scene that just really works. Another one that I really love. We spend too much time chasing perfect images, perfectly beautiful scenes, perfectly sharp and well exposed, and that's boring. That does become boring. Finding something that's imperfect, where there's some sort of an emotional connection, even if it's just dry humor, that is the most important thing for me. I didn't realize I like taking photos of people so much. I'm going to be shooting more people this coming year. People are interesting. I also realized that when it comes to landscape photos, I like shooting landscapes with man-made elements in. I know a lot of landscape photographers try not to get pylons or buildings or anything in their shots, but that's the reality. Man has made an impact on the environment, and why shouldn't we shoot that? Why shouldn't we include it? It's real. A perfect, untouched, natural scene, yeah, that exists, but just gets a little bit boring for me. What else have we got here? Well, the biggest takeaway is black and white. I didn't realize how much I've been getting into black and white, and I've made a conscious decision moving forward this year to try and shoot exclusively in black and white. I realize there are going to be some scenes that kind of need to be shot in color. Things like food needs to be shot in color, but most things, black and white. That's my goal. I realized I just love finding compositions of the everyday, of the mundane. And if we can create something that's got some sort of emotional connection and makes you feel something, that's my preference. As I said earlier, humor. So I think maybe this annual review is less about a self-critique, but it's more about self-discovery. It's a way of seeing who we are as a photographer and where we might want to go. Our photography changes over time because we change over time. We like different things. We respond to different things. And it's good to be aware and take notice of that, take notice of what we're responding to through our photography. So from what I've learned here, am I able to package all of this up and give myself a title, what kind of photographer I am, a 1 or 2 line description? If I was going to say I'm anything, it's a travel photographer, because everything else comes under that umbrella title. So now I've gone through this exercise, I know exactly how to proceed with my photography this coming year. And more importantly, has this helped you in any way? Do you analyze your images like this to help you figure out how to move forward? Let me know in the comments. I'd really be interested to see what you think about this and if this video provided any value to you. And on that note, thank you so much for watching. See you soon.